How's everyone doing? Thank you, Julia. Hope everyone's having a great day. You've been talking radical Marxism already, sharing a drink. So I want to start by mentioning something that we have up here on my right, the safe staffing or strike banner. I think it represents something very foundational about what Left Voice is all about. And so I want to talk about that. And that's class struggle. We're going to hear updates, as Julie mentioned, from 7K strike people, adjuncts, and faculty at the City University of New York. We're going to hear from militant revolutionary nurses and NISNA. I think we're going to hear an update from a Stanford hotel worker about their unionizing efforts. So I won't talk about the details, but I just want to make the point that class struggle, that's what we're about. We see the socialist transformation of the world as something that's contingent on the mass struggle of everyday people, of workers, of oppressed genders, oppressed races, people, immigrants. If you're getting fucked over by capitalism, we want to organize with you. And just to give a sense of why class struggle is central, we should look at the recent government shutdown that Trump was doing, the end of last year and into January. It was a shutdown that affected, millions of people. There are 800,000 employees that were affected, but many more, hundreds of thousands that were adversely harmed. And the Democrat, how did that shutdown end? Why did that happen, and what are the lessons from that? Well, Trump was doing it for his own reasons, and the Democrats, they put up a tepid resistance. They challenged it verbally. They made some maneuvers in government, but ultimately they didn't. They didn't stop the shutdown. Ultimately, the Democrats, including the Justice Democrats, were unable to stop this sort of catastrophe that was hitting working people across the country. But the government did stop. The shutdown was ended, and it was the working class that ended the shutdown. Yeah. No, I'm not reading verbatim here, but how did the working class end the shutdown?
Withdraw your labor.
That's right. So the air traffic controllers, they were increasingly calling out sick, right? And that was making airports like LaGuardia here in Queens and JFK and airports across the country less and less functional, right? So that posed a threat to the entire air traffic system across the country, and that was in turn political liability for Trump that was not acceptable. Also, someone said the FAA, right? What was that?
Good tell you.
Okay, let me tell you. It's Vladek in the editorial for the magazine. He talked about this point that not only were air traffic controllers spontaneously calling out sick, but the president of the Flight Attendants Union, the FAA, she was saying that workers across the country should be organizing and coming together for a general strike. Right? This is the United States here. General strikes don't happen easily, So when you have a president of a union threatening to help organize or calling for a general strike against the government shutdown, that's big. So with those two things happening, and as well as many TSA agents also calling out sick, you have a variety of government workers, unionized workers that were feeling the brunt of the government shutdown, that were not getting paid. They were either just laid off or furloughed or working and just not receiving their checks. And many of those workers took action, and they were the reason why the government shutdown ended. It was the working class. We can also get a taste of the power of the working class, of working people, by the recent wave of teacher strikes across the country. Right? Let's hear it for the teachers. How many teachers do we have in this room? I know there's some teachers. How many teachers? Yeah. And how many faculty members do we have? We got some faculty members here? How about service workers? We got service workers here? Yeah. We got some nurses here. We got people from all over, all parts of the working class here tonight. So I'm real happy to see you're all here. The teacher strike wave started last year as a teacher spring, 2018. Teachers struck from West Virginia to Arizona to Oklahoma to the most recently in LA. 30,000 strike. Yeah. And there's an unprecedented, strike wave of teachers. We haven't seen anything like that since the 60s. Since teachers unions and public sector unions were being formed. And in many cases, those struggles won real gains. In West Virginia, for example, I believe the entire state workforce gained a 5% or 10%, I think it was a 5% raise. Small, but significant. The fight against charter schools, and the fight to have guidance counselors and nurses and therapists in the schools in LA, some of that stuff, not everything, but some of that stuff has been won. So that's another example of the power of the working class when it takes action. So I gotta move on. I'm taking up too much time making jokes. I also want to talk just briefly about the revolutionary tradition in this country. There's a lot of interest in socialism these days. People are joining the DSA. People are interested in Bernie. People are feeling the burn turn again. There's, democratic socialism is something that's being looked up by millions of people. People under 30 have a negative opinion about capitalism. People want something different. And I want to talk about what we're about and counterpose it. A lot of people are about to join the electoral wave. The Bernie Sanders, Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, other Justice Democrats that are in the primaries. And I want to caution against that because I think we can do much better. I think we can do a lot better. I titled my article in the magazine, Rescuing America's Revolutionary Tradition, because I think we can learn a lot from studying the radical and revolutionary organizations that have come before. The Socialist Party of Eugene Debs, the Communist Party, the Socialist Workers' Party, and many, many others. It's a rich, important tradition that we need to study. And one of the foundational, one of the basic points of all those groups was that, initially at least, was that the working class needs to organize in its own name. These parties were based and formed on the premise that working people can change the world through mass action, through revolution, and that we can't achieve fundamental social change by working through the Democratic Party. Today, in many ways, the clock has been reset for revolutionaries. We have groups that are just dissolving themselves. We have new groups, the Marxist Center and others, and of course the DSA. Oh, Marxist Center? Someone's from the Marxist Center here, I think. We got groups popping up, and the DSA has absorbed the largest influx of people that want to fight for a better, more socialist world. But we need to draw the lessons from past organizations so we don't make the same mistakes. We don't want to be the left wing of the Democratic Party. We don't want to be buddy-buddy with union bureaucrats who are basically, essentially holding back and possibly even selling out the nurses and 7K. I'll let people talk about that. We don't want to be a party that apologizes for imperialism. We want to be a revolutionary organization of all the we want to work about you and the millions of oppressed people in this society and around the world to smash the system once and for all. So let's talk about how to do that.